Hey everyone, it's Video James here, coming back at you again with more football. Um, tonight, we are covering AFCON, not AFCON 2019. AFCON 2019 is come and gone. We saw Algeria become the champions. Congratulations to Football Pharaoh for properly predicting that before the tournament had kicked off, predicting that Algeria would win. Honestly, a miracle. He probably thinks so himself that it was a miracle he managed to predict that. Um, but no, we're talking about AFCON 2021. The draw for qualifiers for AFCON 2021 have been made, and we have yet to see the preliminary rounds where 8 nations have to fight in order to fight for 4 spots in the first 4 groups. But aside from one preliminary round, which I will get to, everything seems pretty cut and dry. And I'd be surprised, even when it comes to African football, to see certain nations not succeed over other ones. Of the whew, of the 53 nations that are members of the African the AFC, or no, the CAF, one nation is not going to be participating for AFCON 2021 qualifiers, and that is Somalia. But aside from that, Eritrea, so 2 nations are not going to be participating. As far as I know, I may be forgetting 1 or 2, but those 2 nations will not be participating in qualifiers whatsoever. But we do have a clear distinction. One nation has already qualified for AFCON 2021, and that is Cameroon, because they'll be hosting. Now, some of you may be confused, thinking, well, Cote d'Ivoire was supposed to host for 2021. That is true, and Cameroon got stripped from hosting rights for this year's AFCON. Well, the Confederation for African Football has agreed to push the Cote d'Ivoire AFCON to 2023, and therefore push the Guinea AFCON to 2025. Both footballing federations and governments had agreed to this change, giving themselves more time to prepare for the upcoming event, and also giving Cameroon a second shot because they had already spent money on the event itself for 2019. Might as well see some of that money go towards an actual event. Therefore, AFCON 2021. So without further ado, let's get into the preliminary rounds before we start with the groups. Liberia versus Chad, South Sudan versus Seychelles, Mauritius versus Sao Tome and Principe, and Djibouti versus the Gambia. I think it's obvious Liberia is going to come out on top against Chad. No offense to any Chadian viewers. If there are any out there, I'd be surprised. Liberia just has the better football history, and this is a battle between minnows right now, and Liberia is the biggest of all of these minnows. I'd be surprised if they can't make it out over Chad, who I don't think has ever gotten past preliminaries ever since they were forced to participate in preliminaries for this event. Then South Sudan versus Seychelles. No events towards Seychelles. South Sudan is also looking to be the favorite. This is more so, rather than judging them by quality, it's more so the talent pool available to them and also the land available to them to actually play on a pitch in their own country to practice with. So I'm just going to say South Sudan. Mauritius versus Sao Tome and Principe. Sao Tome and Principe were a tad impressive during qualifiers for 2019. I'd have to give them the edge personally over Mauritius. And finally, Djibouti versus Gambia. Djibouti is not good in terms of footballing, and the Gambia actually managed to hold its own during qualifiers for 2019. That alone just puts me to say that the river nation of the Gambia is going to do a lot better than the desert nation of Djibouti. Again, time will tell if these predictions are wrong, but these are the minnows, and like I said, it seems pretty clear-cut, pretty dry. And if they're wrong, I don't believe it will affect the standings in the actual group stages for qualifiers all too much. In Group A, we have Mali, Guinea, Namibia, and Liberia. If Liberia were to advance, I think this is just as cut and dry as the others. Putting Mali in first and Guinea in second. Guinea going to have Naby Keita back for the 2021 qualifiers, so it's not out of this realm to assume that they're probably going to push forward and do quite well. Mali just has the better all-around team in comparison to Guinea, a team that was able to really show off and hold their own against Cote d'Ivoire despite their loss and being kicked out in the round of 16 during the group's knockout stages. Namibia not being impressive at all. In fact, during qualifiers, they barely skirted by in order to make it to the 2019 AFCON. I'm sorry if I'm not looking directly at the camera. It looks like I got a side eye, but and then Liberia, I do think would actually come out ahead of Namibia. So I'm saying Mali first, Guinea second, both of them qualifying. Liberia third, Namibia fourth. I can't really examine and analyze too much here, just because if I do, we're going to have an hour-long video, and I don't have enough space for that on my phone. Group B, we have Burkina Faso, Uganda, Malawi, and South Sudan. This one's pretty obvious, is that Uganda is probably going to come in first. Burkina Faso is a likely second. Malawi and South Sudan are not really footballing powers. We saw that by the fact that South Sudan pretty much got creamed during qualifiers for 2019, and they had to go through preliminaries. Granted, this is the first time we've had to see 4 preliminary matchups rather than 3, but take what you can get. South Sudan probably not going to make it out of this group. Again, Malawi's not the most difficult of opponents. If they do manage to beat any team, it's likely going to be Malawi. No offense to any Malawian viewers, but it's likely going to be Uganda first, Burkina Faso second, Malawi third, South Sudan fourth. Group C, we have Ghana, South Africa, Sudan, and Sao Tome and Principe. I think it's going to go exactly like that order. Ghana first, South Africa second, Sudan third, Sao Tome and Principe fourth. Just because Sudan, despite troubles now, will likely be able to beat Sao Tome and Principe quite handily, but South Africa and Ghana are well established as African footballing powers, and Ghana more so than South Africa. I'd be hard-pressed to see otherwise. In Group D, we'll have DR Congo, Gabon, Angola, and the Gambia. The last of the groups to have a preliminary group in their group. Preliminary team in their group. I was not impressed with DR Congo whatsoever during the AFCON this year. I wasn't impressed with them during qualifications. I haven't been impressed with them for about 8 years now. So I'm probably going to say that the way how this is going to go is that Gabon is going to come in first. They're going to make a comeback. Surprising prediction, I know. Angola is second. They're going to come back to AFCON. Then DR Congo third, the Gambia fourth. In Group E, we have Morocco, Mauritania, the Central African Republic, and Burundi. 2 of this year's debutantes are put in a group with Morocco, who, despite a very, very unimpressive set of wins and then an extremely unimpressive knockout during the round of 16, and the loss of Hervé Renard, Mauritania and Burundi do have their work cut out for them, but it's not too big of a piece. I've never been confident in the Central African Republic footballing-wise. I don't think I ever will be. They do get wins, but seeing as how Burundi kind of dropped the ball and Mauritania was able to hold its own against teams like Tunisia and Angola, the way I see this group rolling out is Morocco is a very likely first. Mauritania is going to return to AFCON 2021, being the second place team from this group. I think Burundi will come in third, and the Central African Republic will come in fourth. I'm just not impressed with the Central African Republic. I'm not impressed with Burundi either, but Burundi is likely going to at least show what they're capable of against the Central African Republic. In Group F, we have Cameroon, Cabo Verde, Cape Verde, Mozambique, and Rwanda. Cameroon, the 2017 edition champions of the African Cup of Nations. Sadly, we're not able to get past the round of 16, but many people were already predicting that. A young squad from 2017 getting a little bit of experience into 2019, followed by getting knocked down a peg for their troubles. They'll have the experience to come through and shine in the upcoming African Cup of Nations. They'll likely be contenders for winning the next African Cup of Nations, in my opinion. Kind of like a phoenix rising from the ashes. I will say Cameroon first. I do not think Cabo Verde will come in second. It's very unlikely. I do think Mozambique, who had a very decent shot at qualifying for this year, are going to come in second. Cabo Verde are going to come in third, and Rwanda, sadly, unlike their neighbors Burundi, probably are not going to have the satisfaction at going to the next African Cup of Nations for the first time. They just haven't been consistently impressive. They haven't shown off any flashes of brilliance, and that's understandable. The country is not so much focused on building up its international presence in terms of sports. It's working on it in terms of investment, and I don't blame them. So Rwanda to come in last. Group G, Egypt, Kenya, Togo, and Comoros. If Egypt could get handed a group to allow themselves to go to the next African Cup of Nations, again, despite their performances, this is the group. Excusez-moi. Egypt, likely to come out in first. Kenya, I'm actually not as confident to come in second, despite their appearance in AFCON and being this close to moving on to the knockout stages for the first time in their history. I don't think they're going to move on as one of the teams to qualify. The second place team to me is actually Comoros, a team that's been improving drastically each and every year. Though they will have a lot of trouble against the likes of Egypt, the likes of Kenya and Togo. Togo being of the three nations near Nigeria, Ghana. Almost hit the stop recording button there. Between Ghana, Benin, and Togo, Togo is the worst of the three. Just look at their record. Not saying that they're bad, but they're not as good as the other two. Comoros, while it's improving, Togo is remaining very stagnant. And Kenya, as much as I love them, I don't think they'll be able to come on top towards this emergent Comoros team, this Comorian team. And so me, being ever the Arab enthusiast, believes that Comoros will come in second, Kenya third, and Togo fourth. Moving on to Group H, Algeria, Zambia, Zimbabwe, and Botswana. Congratulations to Algeria again, to any Algerian nationals or any fan of the Fennec Foxes. Congratulations. I do believe Algeria will top this group quite easily, especially with such a dominant performance at AFCON this year. Zambia, former champions back in, I think it was 2010 when they beat Cote d'Ivoire during the penalty shootout. I think they're going to make a return because I'm not confident in Zimbabwe. Despite Zimbabwe performing admirably during AFCON and being favorites to be either second place or one of the third place teams to move on, well, they blew it with DR Congo now, didn't they? They really did. A team that just came in out of nowhere with 4 goals. There was no response. I believe Zimbabwe's alias is the Great Eagles. If I'm mistaken, well, that's on me. I actually don't think they're called the Great Eagles at all. But I believe it will be Algeria first, Zambia second, but I don't think Zimbabwe is going to lose out against Botswana. And it will be a very close battle for second place. Zimbabwe third, Botswana fourth. Botswana a very deep fourth. Group I, Senegal, the regular Congo, Guinea-Bissau, and Eswatini. Senegal are favorites to top this group. The runners-up of AFCON, even though they weren't necessarily as convincing as people would have wanted them to be. They're still a very good team. They're still generally considered one of the African powerhouses right now. Definitely a team to top this group. Congo, not so much. Congo, not so much to come in second. Guinea-Bissau, meanwhile, a nation that actually managed to make it to AFCON this year. They actually managed to grab points, which is more than can be said for some teams. And just because it seems like all the third-place teams are the teams to upset what are considered the second-place teams as far as seeding goes, once again, I'm going to say Guinea-Bissau coming out over Congo. Congo third. Eswatini, formerly known as Swaziland, a nation that rarely does well, coming in last. Group J. Tunisia, Libya, Tanzania, and Equatorial Guinea. Tunisia, again, another nation that was very unconvincing this AFCON, drawing all three of their group stage games. Just so happened to make it out against Ghana, and then having a pretty dominant victory over the debutantes Madagascar, who were having the Cinderella story, making it to the quarterfinals, and then losing to Senegal in the semifinals, who in turn Tunisia lost to Nigeria during the third place match. Tunisia is still the favorite in this group. I'd be surprised if they didn't top it. They're still considered the second best team in Africa. Libya, a nation that was very close to qualifying this year. They were within a match distance of going to AFCON, despite troubles, despite the Civil War, despite not really having a football infrastructure like they once had. The nations in this group aren't necessarily hard to beat. Equatorial Guinea may be a threat. Tanzania, not so much. Tanzania, a nation that was very lucky to just go to AFCON this year because they were put in an insanely easy group, and they still managed to struggle in qualifiers and then proceed to not get a single point during the actual AFCON. So Tunisia first, Libya second, both of them will qualify. Which means all of the North African coastal nations will qualify for AFCON in my predictions. Tanzania, I don't even think they'll get third. I think they'll lose out to Equatorial Guinea, and it will be a close battle between Equatorial Guinea and Libya for second place. Equatorial Guinea to get third, Tanzania fourth. Group K, Cote d'Ivoire, Niger, Madagascar, and Ethiopia. If Madagascar ever wanted to return to an African Cup of Nations, this is the group to do it in. Madagascar has really been handed quite an easy victory here. I'd be hard-pressed to think that they'd lose to Niger. Niger, no disrespect to the Niger viewers. Again, if I have any, I highly doubt it. Niger, whilst a decent group of players, now ranks below Madagascar as soon as the 25th of July rankings were released. Niger is just a middle of the desert country, middle of the Sahara country with a tiny bit of forest and greenery and river. Just not a lot of room to play football and not a lot of money to play football. And not that a lot of these countries do have the financial acumen in order to actually set up a footballing infrastructure. Niger is kind of on the bottom rung there. So I'm seeing Cote d'Ivoire first. Again, African powerhouse. Of course, they're going to come in first. Madagascar second to return for their second consecutive African Cup of Nations and their second ever. Niger, not going to lose to Ethiopia. They're going to come in third. Ethiopia, true to form, are going to be on the bottom rung once again, going to have trouble getting any result in this group, even a draw. They got lucky that they came in third for their group during qualifiers because Sierra Leone at the time was disqualified. Group L, Nigeria, Benin, Sierra Leone, and Lesotho. Speaking of Sierra Leone, Nigeria, again, obvious team to top this group. Benin were very, very surprising making it to the quarterfinals this year. Good for them. To the Beninese, national team and Beninese people. Congratulations on overcoming Morocco, one of the best teams in Africa, to get to the point where you're at now. I don't think that that's going to translate into success for qualifiers, however. I mostly have my eyes on Sierra Leone, a team that, by all rights, was disqualified for good reason. Their government was getting involved in football, which is a big no-no as far as FIFA is concerned. But Sierra Leone, a strong team in spite of that, in spite of their disqualification. I think they're going to come out above Benin. So I'm seeing Nigeria, Sierra Leone, Benin in a very close third, and then Lesotho, true to form, last place team in their group. So to reiterate, for the preliminaries, I see the nations of Liberia, South Sudan, Sao Tome and Principe, and the Gambia moving out of the preliminary rounds to go into the actual group stages of qualifications, hence why I was so confident in making this video, despite those preliminaries not coming up, and the 24 nations to go to the African Cup of Nations, in my opinion, will be Mali, Guinea, Uganda, Burkina Faso, Ghana, South Africa, Algeria, Zambia, Senegal, Guinea-Bissau, Tunisia, Libya, Gabon, Angola, Morocco, Mauritania, Cameroon, Mozambique, Egypt, Comoros, Cote d'Ivoire, Madagascar, and finally Nigeria and Sierra Leone. Again, sorry I couldn't examine this that much. I've been bedridden for the past few weeks. Finally got to see a doctor who was able to figure out what's wrong with me, but I haven't been able to do as much analysis, watching as many matches as I could to examine some of the players. I was able to watch a little bit of results when it came to Comoros because they were playing their own international competition while AFCON was going on with their lower tier domestic players. Their higher tier non-domestic league players were busy playing in France. But yeah, thankfully I did get to show off my Hartford Athletic garb. I went to our game against Pittsburgh Riverhounds, and we lost 2-4, and we were very lucky to get that first goal on a penalty. Not even a penalty, it was a free kick. We have an awful team here in Connecticut. I'm sure, but none of you are interested in USL. I'm barely interested in USL. The only reason why I am is because we finally have a team in Connecticut that isn't a minor league baseball team. But yeah, thank you for watching. If you like this video, please show off your support by liking or subscribing to the channel. If you disagree with me, or if you agree with me, or what have you, please leave a comment down below. If you think that another nation that you support is going to go to AFCON, leave your reasoning or just your support in the comments below. If there's any nation you hope goes to AFCON, whether I mentioned them as a likely nation to go or not, again, I encourage you to comment. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'm glad I'm pumping out more videos or less videos than I am getting subscribers, which means, you know, I'm making content that more and more people are getting attracted to than just one person a video. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. And with that, I'm probably going to head to sleep. But it's been good talking. See you later. Video James here, signing off.